Hello. The purpose of this short amateur video, it's very amateur, is to show you how to use the print House and Senate journals to do legislative history in most cases for statutes that were passed before 1998. The reason I'm using the 2007 ones is because there's only 2 volumes of the House and Senate journals and a second copy I could carry home to my house to do this presentation. Generally, here's your basic array you will be dealing with. You'll need the Kentucky Acts, all of the House and Senate journals for that legislative session that you're doing your legislative history on. And the volumes of the journal can range from 2, as in this case, to 6 to even 8 in some busy years. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is look at a statute that we're going to do the legislative history of. This is part of the human trafficking law that was passed in 2007. And this is particularly a confidentiality law having to do with the victim and a caseworker. If you scroll down to the end, you'll find that this particular act was created in 2007. It's in Kentucky Acts, Chapter 19, Section 1. So that's the first place I'm going to go to, and I hope you don't get seasick following me. So I'm pulling this volume, and it doesn't want to quickly redraw, and I'm looking for that chapter 19 that was there. Now, basically here, I would probably copy this document, either with a photocopier or with my phone. But for the legislative history, the main thing I need to do right now is get the Senate bill number. So I get that, set it aside, and write it down on my piece of paper that I'm following along with. I suggest you do this with a piece of paper because you'll be using your phone to take pictures as you go through this. So finding out that it says SB means I'm starting in the Senate. So I'm going to look in the tables in the back of the Senate journal. So I pull that volume, and I have these marked now. But normally I'd have to go pulling through these volumes. And I'm looking for the history of Senate bills in the Senate. This table has to do with those bills that started in the Senate, and it covers what they've done throughout the Senate. So I'm scanning down for my Senate bill. Gonna have to turn a page, and then I get over here and find my Senate Bill 43 and look through the information there. Each of these numbers is a page number. And if you go to the top of the page, and I'm going to have some copies of this associated with this lesson, you'll see what's happening here. The bill's introduced, it's referred to committee, and reported officially to the body. It gets its first reading, its second reading, and its third. The third usually corresponds with the voting. The column that says sub or amendment is one you're really interested in. Because one of the things you'll want to do as you go through this is jot down what happens along the way. But more importantly, for your legislative history, you want to track every change. You want to track, first of all, the first version of the bill, which will show up either in the first reading or when it comes out of committee. And then any substitute or amendment, because those amendments are very important to how your bill breaks down. By the way, I'm not looking at my bill, I'm just looking at the one at the top of the page. And then the voting. Other things like the House message and enrolled to send to governor, those are important, but you kind of know those happened because you have a bill that's been done. So I'm going to close this up, and then let's just assume that I've written down all those things, because I would normally jot these things down to go back, because I'm going to set this one and grab the other one. I can't keep that one open the whole time, unless it's the same volume. But nonetheless, these notes on the side will help you write up a report of the legislative history if you need to use it in a brief or in some sort of motion or other document, or even just a memo to your boss. So looking for this thing, I'll look over here in the Senate Journal to get started. Unless it's come over to the other body, and then in that case it might start later. But here it started here, and so most of the stuff will be over here. So I'm just going to follow along the things I said. So, looking at 20, I find that it is under introduction of new bills and resolutions is an act regarding human trafficking. Again, you may need some Dramamine. Referrals of bills and resolution, it's been referred to committee, and it's the Judiciary Committee, because I found 43 over here, which makes sense because generally laws that are criminal or change procedures go that way. And as you recall, after that, it jumps along fairly deeply into the volume, into the 800s. So when I follow along, I find the bill is here. It takes several pages, and it's the whole act. Now, I will note that I'm going to have to turn a few pages to find my actual act, because this is in a big document. If you are going to do any legislative history with this and you want to be thorough, I would copy all the pages of the act, even though the law that you're looking at comes from many pages in down here where it says a new section of chapter 422. If you recall, your law is 422 295, and the language is similar as used in this section, confidential communications. So you want to do the whole law because that may be relevant, because various parts of this law are important overall to interpreting the law. So as I go along, I follow the numbers and I find out it was calendared on a particular day. And as you're going along and you look up over here, somewhere over there is going to tell you the days. And I tend to jot down the days when things happened. And at all points of this volume, the date is at the top of the page. Sometimes they kind of screw up and reprint a day that's not there. This is a very rapidly put together document, so sometimes you might want to cross-check. But that'll tell you, again, if you have a narrative, you're building a narrative. I may be jotting down along here the days as things happen. So it's been calendared. But then, remember my substitutes? There were 2 of them over here, and I said those were important. I found the first of those, and again, we've got the whole bill starts over here, but the section that is important to me is this one here, because they have refined the language. It's not terribly different, but it's pretty much the language of the law. So I'm going to need to make a copy of this. And again, I'll find out in context all the stuff having to do with 43, which goes along a little bit more, that I'll probably copy alongside that. Now, there was another change, and if you go over here, you'll find that there was a committee amendment, and it's very subtle, but it may turn on something that you know, because that's relevant to your case because it's an intent element. It says on page 6, on 3, inserting knowing before participation. Without the word knowing, we're talking about a strict liability situation. Knowing adds an intent element to that. So I saw that. And then the third reading was on page 1087. So I find my way to page 1087. And that is traditionally where the vote is. And it says here, vote with committee substitute and committee amendment is taken from the orders of the days and ordered read for the third time. Senator Kelly moved that it be read by title only. It was agreed by a majority of the members elected. Ultimately, they adopted then the substitute and then the amendment. This is all procedural. And that they moved that the amendment be placed on passage. And it was agreed to by 37-0 on that vote. There is a roll call in the appendices. And if you look on the volume where I had the original table, there is an appendices that gives you the roll call. Obviously, you don't need to see a roll call when it's passed unanimously. So I put back my Senate book. I have successfully done the legislative history of this law in the Senate. Am I done? No, because we have a bicameral system, and that one of the things that's going to happen with this bill is it's going to be sent over to the House, and they will receive it by a message from the Senate, and they'll take it up. If this was Congress, and my Facebook post comes up, if it was Congress, there may be a lot going on over there. But as I pull it and look at the sections of its receipt by the House, and I go through, and I go to an appendix. This time it is a receipt. It's a history of Senate bills in the House. Presumably, Appendix A is a history of House bills in the House. In each of these cases, there's less going on. So, fewer bills, it's not sequential because some of them died. So on that third page, we can find our way to 43. Also, less things are going on. Everything starts on page 2000 and 161, and it zips along pretty clear. So if I was jotting it down, I would probably say, okay, here's the message. It was referred to. I'll note that there are no, if you follow that substituted amendments down, you find there are none. So I'm probably not going to find any language difference. Well, I know I'm not going to find any language difference here. So I flip over to the more relevant things where it's reported. The committee reports the language. Now my bill is basically marked up in a way that it will probably pass. And I flip. I may or may not copy it here. I'm the kind of person that does that so that the file is full. And then I looked through the other things, and the one other thing that I want to note is it was passed. So on its third reading, which is hustled fairly quickly over a few pages, it is voted on here 96-0. And that took place, and the bill is now law. And I now have, with copies of all the relevant data and with my notes, I can write up what happened to this bill as it went along. I can say when it was, passed, introduced, what committee it went to. I can show all versions from its original version to the substitute versions in the Senate, and how it was passed in the Senate, and how it zipped through the House. Altogether, these sorts of things took me a little longer. It looks like the video here is about 15 minutes, plus me doing an introduction and talking over the top of it. Take me a little more to draw it up, but I would probably do that if I pulled this up again. Again, if you want to try this online, you can go pull this up, find it in the Acts, and then find Senate Bill 43 in the regular session of 2007 and follow along what I did there. That's because it's after that magic year of 1998. Before that, you would be using these books. Before I break off, I will just point out that these big fat books, I'll throw my hand up here to see how big they are, have not always been the size of the journals, and they've not always had as those tables in the back. When you get before the 70s, you will find that the books are smaller and they just have regular indexes. You can find SB 43 in those regular indexes, but you just have every single page in those Senate journals, and you have to work out yourself what they are. You're very smart people. Once I've showed you how it breaks down here, you should be able to apply that language, that method in a more simplified form, whether you're looking at a law that was passed in 1970, 1940, or 1898. All right, I'm going to close it up here. I hope nobody got seasick from my wonky camera. And if you have any questions, certainly contact me by email. And you all have an open invitation that when COVID is over, I'll walk anybody through this for a project or just to learn it in real life up in the attic. Thank you.